Yo, what up, everybody? Yo, check out my custom intro. Mad amounts of people are talking smack on Marathon, but I'm telling you, if you know how to play the game, you can. Yo, I guarantee you that intro of mine probably just like made like probably a percentage of the people who bought the game just like refund it instantly. It's like, yo, what's this game about? Exploration, teamwork, finding, looting, finding the right drops, you know, coordinating attacks on your enemy, turning the corner, watching some guy sit camp your ass. Oh, dude, but it's a metaphor, right? You see like the thing that's wrong with Arc Raiders and then subsequently Marathon is, well, Arc Raiders is more of a team based game, and I'll actually upload some footage of me showcasing like how well people work at, like, complete strangers work as teams and stuff, right? But Marathon is the exact opposite. Marathon is a PvP game with extraction shooter elements. If you go into that game pretending that, like, you're gonna find a challenge against the end. Well, actually, I did. I died to the robots, the NPCs or whatever, the bots. Will die to the robots. As you might, maybe not. Just aim for the head. But the main draw of the game is PvP, and like a lot of people are turning it off. Like, I've subscribed to this one lady, and like she just can't give it up. Like, it's almost a daily thing where she's saying, Marathon's gonna die. Marathon's gonna end. The player count in Marathon's not that great. And you know what Marathon did? They dropped a new, two new modes. Well, basically, co-op with your rando teammates, so you don't necessarily need to squad up. But then, like, if you do that, you get like rep, and then you get like extra rewards and stuff, which is pretty sick. And then they came out with the mode that's like gonna change everything. Like, all the sweats are gonna fucking come back, just gonna rush back. And I think like Bungie, just like so smart, they knew like, we're making a PvP game. We'll throw in like whatever bots and like objectives to like flesh out the player on player of violence, but like that's the main draw of the game. And now they're releasing, that's right, battle royale, and it's all the metaphor. It's all the metaphor for life, because we're starting to see what happens when you're merciful, when you're like apparently compassionate, supposedly like, okay, I'm gonna show you. This is me losing. See, I'm not invincible. I have no hacks here. Oh shit, I got knifed. But real talk, like, this game is difficult. It is hard. Like, this is me 99.9% of the time, just dying, straight up dying, dude. Like, if the teams don't get you, the NPCs will, or sometimes like, crazy shit in the environment. And like, the game only came out and people are already writing it off, and I'm just like, well, did you die to another player? And you find it very like, because here's the thing, like, Marathon had its like player based established. You're not going to be jumping in this game and fighting like, casuals. Like 99% of the time you're fighting people who are experienced, who know things about like, the upgrades. Like, apparently you can give your character like agility and like make them like run really, really fast. But this is what it's a metaphor for. It's for life. It's for how we're dealing with people, because I think I touched on this story a little bit in one of my previous videos, but I think I need to go into more emphasis about it, because it shows the great divide that I don't think existed. Like, there was this idea, right? And I don't want to be speaking, putting words into anybody's mouth, but it was this idea that people your own age, well, in terms of women, right? And it was like this idea that was floated to them, were immature. And maybe previously that was the case. Like maybe not saying previously, like that was. I don't think that was the case necessarily. Although I was immature, like I think my maturity level was on par or above that of like a lot of the women, around me. And even though like they can argue one way or the other, like you can't explain away the idea of like throwing away lots of money for a frugal education that will just net you debt. And I'm not bashing like, the girls that like, were in like serious degrees, medical fields and this and that. I'm talking about, going to school for the sake of going to school. But that's besides the point. The point that I'm trying to make is we are more mature than like the contemporaries of the younger generation. And even though like previously I had my apprehensions against robbing the cradle, and I'm probably never gonna like go beyond like below a certain age, but like I'm beginning to open up to the idea of again shouldering the burden, the responsibility. Like people say that you should always lead with your heart, and that's just going to put you in like a precarious situation where leading with your heart made you live in a place that you don't necessarily want to live in, or like you can't give the kind of life to your children that they deserve or you want for them, like the education, the safety, the opportunity. Like I wouldn't want my kid, right, like to live in some remote rural area where there's like basically like one classroom per grade, right? And I'm not trying to like knock that kind of lifestyle. Like I can understand how that has its benefits, if you will, but like to alienate my offspring from large groups of people is just like out of the question for me because it's just like it's gonna happen no matter what, and especially with the world's population, I say sooner rather than later. Except I will be hesitant about public transit, about like traveling around the city, and like living in a. I don't want to say I want to live in a gated community, but most likely I'm going to have to because the world's going like crazy and shit. So, as I alluded to my previous video, Mark Carney has gotten a majority government for his Liberal Party, and everyone's saying is nefarious. He's done it with nefarious ways or whatever. Like this was some kind of crazy um, loophole that they can use, and now they have a majority government in Canada, and we're basically fucked because you look at how Trump is fighting the war and how he's winning and how it's making a difference. Even though like there are sacrifices, there are like people who are naysayers, this and that, and like the concern is well justified to be concerned about. Except it has to be done. It has to be this way. It isn't just like ripping off a band-aid. It's more like pulling out the stitches. You have people who are embedded. They're doing businesses with like legitimate countries and companies, and they have oil shipping, freight boats, whatever. It's what is necessary for the world to change, even though people don't want it to be that way. You have to pull out the stitches because people are just too weak to accept that the freedom of the Iranian people and subsequently all women by extension is more important than your fucking your gas prices, your the sovereignty of your Iranian country, these other countries. Israel's going fucking buck wild. They're like, we're never gonna see another opportunity like this ever again, where us and America are working hand in hand, and chances are, like, the American people, they're turning on the Israelis right now as we speak. Like, the amount of, like, Jewish hate that has been coming out is, like, it's fucked up, man. Because, like it or not, like it or not, they're fighting on the right side of history. You know it, and I know it. Sucks, huh? Like you might know, like a lot of you might not even like the Jews and shit, and I get that. The whole jealousy aspect. I see some of these girls too, man. They're gorgeous, and like this is going back to like, well, the whole title of this video, which is you gotta take more, give less. Like when you see these like people who are very much forced or like objectively obligated to do the moralistic thing at least under supervision, like they're always supposed to do that, and then people who facetiously use that as a veil, but then at every attempt or just like for their own means just like casually just break the law, break the rules, bend every single opportunity into their advantage and stuff. So it is very much um, a fool's, you know, conundrum, if you will. Like it's like you have the people who are following the rules, and you see this, and you see how badly they get screwed over, and some of them don't even come back. Some of them like go on. I'm not talking about like terrorists. I'm just talking about like normal ass people who go like crazy and shit. Again, I'm not talking about that guy who runs up to like some random person's doorbell and like starts like going in their house and attacking them. I'm just like talking about like people who've had a bad day, and it's just like they really, at the end of the day, they didn't really do anything wrong. But then when you realize why they're snapping, it's because they're fighting against the system that is draining them like barren. There's no hope for them to alleviate these circumstances of their, you know, dispositions, if you will. And then why do we have to like see this obvious cycle of people who utilize the rules to their own advantage while everybody else, has to abide by the rules or forced to obey them, at least under supervision. And then it becomes woefully apparent and clear that like there needs to be a third group of people, a third division from these two divisions of people who are clearly like, spiraling. They're causing more problems for everybody than they're solving, if you will, because it's like even though you can point the finger at like all the bad people and all the bad things that they do, that also comes to your attention that like, well, somebody's enabling them, somebody's giving them the chance to do the things that they want to do, and it's these. You know what I call it? Morally charged people. Because for some reason everybody's drained, like they're fatigued, like they can't go further. That's why like steroids, energy drinks, anything that can pick you up. Coffee. I'm like a huge coffee addict though, but maybe because I'm like a smoker, so that's my excuse. But like the whole fascination between of like being alert, being with your senses, like fully aware. And then like when you realize that even if that's the case, people are just like living this like blind life where, you know, you say to yourself, well, they're awake. They must know what's happening to them. They must know what's going on. It's like, no, their idea that everybody's going to do the right thing, morals, this and that. It's like, oh, immigration. These people they just want a better life, unanimously, like without question. If you question it, you're getting rid of the voter base. I mean, you're a racist. You're a bigot. No, forget about my previous statement about votes. It's all about the racism. It's all about the. And see, at this point, haven't you like realized that the people who are telling you all these high moral high ground things are the ones that cause the situation as well as the people who are doing it? It's two sides. So This is what I mean by taking. We gotta take women for ourselves, have children with them, stay with those children, raise those children, and prevent other men from having kids. You see, the way you do that is by asking, the mother of your child, your wife, do you want to have like, two kids and then like we get another woman and then she could have more kids after that? Or do you want to like, have all the kids? Or do you just want to stop at these kids or, whatever, right? It's usually like around one or two. I'll probably ask her before the first one, like to like get that shit clear so she doesn't, you know, if she's the jealous type or if she doesn't, agree to this. Because again, like that's the difference between guys like us and guys who are like, you know, of a certain walk of life. They can't be letting them girls free and shit. And it's this crazy ass thing where you have guys who are so aimless, so lost in life that, on a like weekend or whatever, Friday, they're willing to go out to movie theaters, not to hit on girls, not to better themselves, go to the gym, anything, play video games, fuck, masturbate, do something, right? No, they go into movie theaters and they yell, "He has a gun," for attention, for views, for clicks, for the fame, for the thing that I was like pointing to, like, oh my god, I keep pointing to like all these things. I'm like such a knowledgeable guy, but it is the curse of the moon, where people want so badly to matter and so much for the fame and to the fortune and stuff. Like, can you imagine like tomorrow, right? Some new rule gets like brought out on all these streaming websites. It's like, okay, people who do outrageous things instantly get no money and they get kicked off our website. And you just see like how like in their entire life changes because it's like they were so full of shit. Like that's all they had going for them was just like I could get a YouTube channel or I could get like a streaming, you know, channel. Go try to catch pedophiles, point the finger. Apparently, he's getting sued by this kid. Oh man, what's wrong with Vitaly? Like, dude's like, is one of those guys. I think that, and we used to talk about guys like this back in the day, where you say to yourself that weed's not all that bad, but deep down inside, you know that it's a mistake for some people to blaze, because it's just like you could argue that it was a gateway drug, but the real problem was it revealed what was already there. They're already messed up, and it's like sometimes they just like to do drugs as an excuse to just be themselves. Yeah.